Hi everyone, welcome to Meditation with Annemarie. This is part 13 of my 21-part series on coping with change using your inner powers. So today I'm going to be drawing our 13th power for us to practice, to help us stay on track, to help us cope better with change, and to help us keep moving forward in our lives. So all the powers are based on my book, Will to Wonder, Principles on the Loss and Recovery of Power. And the book is based on our teachings as Brahma Kumaris. So remember to subscribe down below and comment or like the video, which is always helpful and supportive. And let's see what power we're going to be practicing over the next couple of weeks. So there's not many powers left, we're over halfway, so let's see which power we're going to be practicing over the next few weeks. Perfect. The power of simplicity. So the power of simplicity is the ability to keep life uncomplicated no matter what. Simplicity teaches me to keep things simple. My thoughts, my words, my actions. It means to declutter my mind and my life, to minimize any destructive tendencies and keeping a clear focus on my higher purpose. Simplicity stops me from compromising my spiritual values and lets me return to my essence of peace and play. So I am the child. My innocence and my innate knowing that I have a right in the world allows me to keep life simple. I have no expectations and I have nothing to prove. I carry no burden and I am grateful for all I have, to keep life simple, carefree and fun. And the supporting virtues that help us apply the power of simplicity is to practice our power of flexibility, enthusiasm, keeping an open heart, being appreciative, remaining practical, which keeps us creative and it keeps us light. So another beautiful power for us to practice. So let's start with a meditation. So sitting comfortably with your back straight, your spine tall, your shoulders back and relaxed, your arms just resting gently in your lap or by your side. And just allow yourself to take a breath, keeping it simple, keeping it practical. Take a breath and let's start by checking our body. Starting at the top of your head and just briefly scan all the way down to the tips of your toes. Checking any tension, any restrictions, any blockages, any emotions, fear, anger, shame, guilt. Just breathe them out. Recognize them. Don't focus on them. Just recognize them and breathe it out. Breathe out that tension in those joints, in the muscles, in the tendons. Checking that you're relaxing all those muscles, all those tendons. And just working all the way down to the top tips of your feet. And releasing it into Mother Earth. And then coming a little bit closer, I want you to check into your heart space, checking that it's only full of self-love, compassion, gentleness, releasing any anger or fear towards yourself, towards others, towards life, towards change. Again, recognize those emotions that you may be storing and breathe it out, release it, so there's room to fill that heart space up with all your beautiful strengths, all your virtues, all your power. And just notice how good that feels as you release all that tension, all that stress, and as you replace it with kindness and peace and calmness and patience. And then take your attention to your mind. And once again, check for any negativity, any wasteful thinking, thinking about the past, rushing off to the future. Just release it. We can't change the past. And even just recognizing that simplifies your life. We can't change the future if we're not in the present. So again, don't rush to the future, but just bring yourself back to the present, because it is right here, right now, that you can make some change. And with practice, it becomes permanent change. So just focus on releasing anything that's been causing you pain, any thoughts that's been causing you pain or sorrow or hurt or anxiety or stress or anger. Just recognize them. Pat yourself on the back for recognizing them and having the courage to look at them. And then don't pay them any more attention. Breathe it out and let them go. This is a wonderful, simple, practical meditation to help you negotiate your path of life, to help you choose which path is the least restrictive, yet the most creative and most enjoyable, without hurting yourself, without hurting others. Keeping life simple means to clear our path of any obstacle. And to clear our path of any obstacle means sometimes I need to have that courage to face that obstacle in order to eliminate it. Sometimes I can just simply breathe it out and release it. Sometimes I may need to work a little bit harder. But know that you have that ability to release it. So keep your life simple as a means to protect yourself from any external complications, and as a means to protect yourself from old, complicated beliefs that you keep revisiting in your mind, from old limiting beliefs that can make life very complicated very quickly, from beliefs of not being good enough or not deserving. So recognize them, accept them, own them, then release them. and release them with the intention of never taking them back. This is what it means to keep life simple, to keep life practical, and to keep moving forward in an uncomplicated, enjoyable way. Om Shanti. So, the power of simplicity, another one of my favorite powers. You know, in a world where everything seems to be so complicated, we often forget that we contribute to those complications by way of our thought processes and the inner talk, which often becomes negative based on the negative thoughts that we're creating about any situation, about any person, about our belief perhaps of not being able to move forward because of someone else or because of a certain situation, but not recognizing that we've possibly created that situation because of the fear of moving out of our comfort zone and moving forward. We create our comfort zones thinking that we're making it simple, but we're actually making life more complicated. And when we build our comfort zones, we fill it up with stuff. And the more stuff we surround ourselves with, the more we give ourselves a sense of false security. And that illusion creates complications 100-fold. So the more stuff, the more complications, the more stress, the more fear, the more we hang on, the more we cling on to that which we really need to let go of, because it's really no good for our higher purpose or the higher purpose of anyone around us. But our conditioning, our compulsions have become such that we prefer the comfort zone, even though it creates complications, and convincing ourselves that it is simpler than to face the unknown. The other issue with stepping out of our comfort zone and decluttering is we often hang on to the clutter because it gives us an excuse to... We've got something to blame, but can you see all this clutter? I can't see ahead because of this clutter. But we're blaming the clutter and we're not recognizing that we are creating that clutter. So, you know, my partner and I lived on the road for 6.5 years before we settled here on the Hervey Bay region, in the Fraser Coast region. And we offered, our aim was to offer spiritual empowerment outreach programs to regional areas of Australia. And initially we planned to only do it for 6 to 12 months, and we ended up doing it for 6.5 years because we really enjoyed the simplicity of it all. We sold everything and all we owned was in the caravan and in our car. So I was very good at packing. I was very good at becoming economical and practical and only using what we needed and not accumulating clutter. So if we needed to buy something, we would make a point of getting rid of something else, because the whole weight issue with insurance and safety and traveling and saving petrol, you know, the heavier the weight, the more we use in every area of our life. So complications is no different. It weighs us down. And so we use a lot of our other resources to try and fix fix those complications. Instead of recognizing the complication as a complication and looking and using our tools, our virtues, our power to eliminate those complications, rather than to look at the clutter and go, yes, well, this is why I can't change. Remember, I am the creator of my own story. So let's keep it simple. Let's keep it uncomplicated, because I hear this often. People often say, but you don't understand, it's complicated. And I understand very well, because I used to make my life very complicated. Even though I very much live a simple life, if we don't deal with our emotional stuff, we automatically make life complicated, because it will filter, it will infiltrate into every area of our life. And so when an issue arises, we often have missed all the red flags, we've missed the cues, the triggers that have told us to stop, pay attention, turn inward, release what you need to release, and just keep it simple. When we don't allow ourselves this regular process of decluttering, of de-stressing, of breathing and releasing, that in itself will clutter our mind, it will clutter our heart, and there's no room for our beauty. Our beauty gets pushed aside into a tiny little corner of the recesses of our mind, of the recesses of our hearts. And so any wonder we start believing that we don't deserve any better, because we've filled ourselves up with so much emotional rubbish, and we're now starting to take on the emotional rubbish of others, and we can't work out anymore what's my karmic account, what's someone else's karmic account. So we start buying into other people's stuff as well, and life becomes increasingly complicated, and all our intention of living simply has gone out the window. So a good reminder is to practice being that child. You know, a child is able to let go. They may get hurt or upset or angry, and sometimes all they need is a cuddle, and they take a breath and they get on with it. They forget about it. They don't hang on to stuff. They don't hold things against someone else because they've upset them. They've forgotten. They've let it go. And so I love the image of the child, because as we grow up and we think we're becoming more responsible in our life, we actually lose our responsibility, because we lose our creativity when we stop allowing ourselves to be that child. And responsibility means the ability to respond to our life in a positive, in a light, carefree, uplifting, life-giving way. When I'm reacting, I'm not being responsible. When I'm reacting, I'm making life difficult, and simplicity has gone out the window. So to remind myself every now and again that I'm this child, that it's okay to learn through our mistakes, because that's how we learn. A child learns experientially. They learn through touching and feeling and playing and tasting. And I remember my children often, you would see mud on their face because and I thought, oh, they've been eating my pot plants again. But that's how children learn, right? We learn through experimenting with things. How does this fit? How is this going to work? And that's how we become creative, and we build. Look at Legos, how popular Legos is. We build on things and we create things. But when we make life complicated, the inner critic kicks in, and we start believing that we're not creative. We start believing that we're not good enough. We start believing that life is difficult and hard and scary. And that's not simplistic. That's very complicated. That's very heavy going. Simplicity is about being light and carefree. It doesn't mean that you're not responsible. It's the opposite. You become more responsible because you are able to live more in the moment. You are able to let go because you are living more in the moment. And that gives you that power to let go. That gives you that power to keep it simple. It gives you the power to bring it back to me, to work on me, to heal me, to recharge and recenter and stabilize me in a world that is continually changing, so that I can flow with that change rather than resist out of fear, or rather than force with aggression and anger. I can learn to just flow with it, accepting that and changing what I can along the way, and accepting what I can't change. And I just have to accept and let it go. Sometimes we can't change situations. We can't control what others do or what others say. So let me keep it simple, and let me just focus on what I can control. And that is how I think, how I speak, how I act. That is all I can control. That is simplicity in its essence, in its beauty, and it brings clarity, it brings choice, it allows you to make clearer decisions and clearer judgments on how to behave and how not to behave, what to keep in your store of treasures and power, and what to let go of. It becomes much easier because you don't need to hang on. You don't need to hang on to that clutter that is really not helping you at all. So start by decluttering your home. If your home feels a bit messy at the moment, it's a reflection of what's going on inside. So start by keeping your workspace, your home space, your creative space clean, because that is going to help you keep your mind clean from that clutter. And the more clean your mind is, the more simple your life becomes. So I hope you got a little bit of benefit out of that, just keeping it simple as we possibly can. And I hope you can practice this to help you cope better with all the changes, and I'm sure there's more changes to come. Even though we're very insulated in Australia, particularly in Queensland, we know COVID isn't going away anytime soon. We can hope for the best, but we need to prepare for the worst. And that is simplicity in itself. When we were on the road, we kept what we needed for emergencies. There were always emergency kits, and there was always, the basics. As long as you have the basics, you are okay. So remember to keep the basics. Remember to keep the basics of your own love, of your own peace, of your own clarity, and your own peace of mind. And that's what gives you that inner stability. And that's what allows you and enables you to keep life a little bit simpler. So let's finish with another meditation. And I hope you have a wonderful fortnight. And I hope you get some great benefit by applying this power in your life. And remember, what you put into your own self-empowerment development, into your own spiritual practice, what you put into it is what you get out of it. Okay, so let's finish off with another meditation. So once again, sitting quietly and turning inward just for a little while, turning into your heart space and then turning upward into your mind. And I want you to use your imagination. And I want you to see yourself as that child, that innocent child that has no concept of fear, that has no concept of love. It just is in its present moment, knowing it has a right in the world. That's all. That child that has the wonder in its eyes and looking at the beauty and the simplicity of life. So I want you to see yourself now, this child in your garden or in any garden, a beautiful garden. And I want your child to walk over to a flower, any flower, one of your favorite flowers. Could be a beautiful bright yellow sunflower or a beautiful fragrant red rose, or maybe some lavender because you like the fragrance of it, or maybe you like the little pansies or the violets or the snapdragons, the bright coloured snapdragons. Whatever flower you remember that you liked as a child, bring that to your mind. See yourself in that garden, standing in front of that flower. And I want you to watch that flower just unfold its petals. And you're just watching. You're not judging. You're not questioning. You're just purely enjoying the wonder of the unfoldment of that flower. And as that flower unfolds and you feel safe and secure, and though you have no concept of love, you feel, because you have that innate knowing of love. So there is no question of safety, of security. You're just completely absorbed in that moment, in that wonder of that flower unfolding. And as it's unfolding, you see the most beautiful butterfly land on that flower. And you can't help it. Let out a little gentle shriek of excitement. Because again, the joy, the wonder, there's no explanation of the simplicity of nature. And you're not trying to hurt the flower or the butterfly. You're not wanting to catch it and own it, because you know you can't own nature. You can just appreciate it for what it is while it is there. And then just watch the butterfly fly away, high up in the sky. Watch the beautiful colours with the sun shining. And you're just watching it go up and up and up, fluttering away. And you wonder if one day you'll be able to fly. And then as that child is done with the flower and the butterfly, you turn away, always feeling full, always feeling wonderful. And you just go over to your veranda and you just sit and you play with those toys. Maybe it's a truck, maybe it's a doll, maybe it's a tea set, whatever it might be. But you've let go. You've let go, you've enjoyed the wonder of the flower and the butterfly, and now you've let go and moved on. Richer, for the experiment and the experience. And now moving on. So as you're sitting there playing with your other toys, all I want you to focus is on that innocence, that simplicity, that calmness, that joy. And I want you to keep remembering those good parts. And each time, if you do have a bad moment or a weak moment, I want you to remember the wonder of that child. For this is practicing the power of simplicity.